Hey guys, welcome to Revive. This is Imaging Gift participating in the National Eucharistic Revival. Right now, we're covering the basics of Catholic teaching on the Eucharist. It's called Transubstantiation. This is actually the third video that's talking about that teaching. If you want to see the others, you can go scroll back on all the social media feeds, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at Imaging Gifts, and you can see the previous videos. But tonight we're talking about the third part of the teaching on transubstantiation, which says that Jesus remains present from the moment the priest consecrates the host and the wine, so the bread and the wine, until the accident no longer exists. And so we have to kind of like look at that, right? That idea of the accident. What are accidents, right? It's not like a car crash or anything like that, but instead, it's actually, we get this kind of thinking, this kind of terminology from St. Thomas Aquinas, who borrowed some philosophical terms from Aristotle to help us understand the change that takes place in the Eucharist. And so remembering, just in case you haven't seen those first two videos, remembering that Catholics believe that the essence of bread and wine go out of existence, and the only thing that's there after the consecration is Jesus himself in his full humanity and divinity glorified, and that's what Catholics receive. And so but how do we like understand this idea? What is an accident, right? Whenever we speak philosophically, at least according to Aristotle and St. Thomas Aquinas, an accident it simply means the physical characteristics of something that do not determine its essence, are not essential to its essence. So for instance, my hair color, right? I have my whatever brown hair. If I color it black, I'm still me. I haven't changed my essence. I just changed the color of my hair. My location is another type of accident. Like I'm sitting here on my little imaging gift sofa, right? If I get up, if I would stand up right now and go to another part of my office, and that would be I would change location. That's an accident to my substance or to my essence. I'm still me, right? So those are some examples of what is meant by accident. So whenever we say the accidents remain, what that means is that as long as what the physical characteristics of bread and wine are present, Jesus is still wholly present, entirely present. So let's say you go and receive the Eucharist, and you're receiving all of Jesus, everything that he is. You're not receiving bread. You're receiving Jesus himself. And then you go ahead and you swallow that host. And in about 15 minutes or so, that's going to go hit your digestion system, right? And start to break down. The accident or physical characteristic will start to break down and then the presence of Jesus is no longer there, right? That's why traditionally, I don't see it done very often anymore in churches, but you might be a member of a church that still has this practice of, it's called the Thanksgiving prayer. Like people used to stay in the church and pray for about 15 minutes, right? Because Jesus was still present in them until it actually started to go through the digestive process. And so that's how long he's around, right? Or maybe, unfortunately, I hope this would never happen, but it does happen, I'm sure, sometimes that we might forget a consecrated host in the tabernacle. And if it stays there long enough, it'll start to decay or break down. Well, then the presence of Christ is no longer there because the accident, the physical characteristic is no longer there. And so that's kind of how that works. And so, according to Aquinas, what is happening, right, in transubstantiation is that instead of like instead of the accident changing to like, so if I switch locations, right, that's just an accident. It doesn't really have anything to do with my actual essence. It's just my essence going to a different location. And the Eucharist would be actually the reverse of that, right? So the miracle of transubstantiation is that there is a real and actual change in what the thing is that we are receiving, but there's no change in how it looks, tastes, smells, right? The physical characteristics of what we're receiving don't change unless we have a Eucharistic miracle in which that becomes evident, but the actual what it is changes. So it's kind of the opposite of like, I can change my location, but not change anything about what I am, right? But it would be the opposite, right? So the accident stays the same, not the essence. The essence changes. So that's like the philosophical underpinning of like an explanation of what's going on, right? So that is, and then it says like, until the accident no longer exists. So how can we have Eucharistic adoration? Well, no one's consumed the host. And so if no one consumes it, then it remains, right? The essence of Jesus remains. And that helps us to have things like Eucharistic adoration are bringing communion to the sick, right? So that consecrated host is really Jesus. And it just looks like bread, tastes like bread, smells like bread, and wine, of course. But it's not. It's really Jesus. All right. So next time, I'm happy to say that we'll try to make a connection between the reception of Holy Communion and theology of the body. So that's going to be awesome. So please come back and hear the next installment. Follow Imaging Gifts on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. And next time, we'll talk about a connection with theology of the body. Until then, take care. And I hope that you are feeling revived in the Eucharist.